Imagine if I told you all the things that I never took the time to tell. Even if I told you, you wouldn't understand that you and I is lost forever. Under all this emptiness, each time I try to get inside, you run a mile, no time for talking. Amelia, Amelia, how could you lead me on this way? I knew I should have stayed away. Amelia, Amelia, there's nothing more left to say. It's time to go our separate ways. They say that time is a healer. I don't believe what they say. I'm broken anyway. Ever since we parted, all this pain has started. It's never ending. Under all this
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another live stream Saturday, and a bit of a reserved start to the live stream for tonight with Amelia, and that's one of my songs available over on wingsofpegasus.com/music. And I was actually asked about that recently in the comment section about where my music is, and yeah, that's the place to find it. I don't know whether the comment was a sarcastic comment or not, because sometimes you get those kinds of comments when people say, "Oh, where's your music?" when I'm looking at artists and pointing out different things, and they assume that I don't do anything myself. But anyway, yeah, for my music, such as that song, head over to wingsofpegasus.com/music. But anyway, let's jump into tonight's live stream and see you guys in the live chat room tonight. In there, we have Ruth, Ro, Billy, Angela, Cindy, Bob, Kimberly, Rose, Teresa, Tammy, Laurie, Lisa, Billy, Olivia, Cindy, Jennifer, Angela, Pamela, and Joe's in there as well. Mimi321, Bella, and hello to all of you in there. It's going through a little bit too quickly for me to keep up now, but I see you, and thank you for tuning in. So, now let's get the names of my patrons up on screen, because they make this all possible in the first place. You know who you are. A massive thanks to these people at the bottom of the screen, probably in this direction, that direction, and they go across the screen throughout all of the live streams. The problem is that whenever I try and do something choreography wise on the live stream, I'm watching it back to front, so when I move one way it goes the other way, and it's all a bit of a disaster. But anyway, yes, these people make it all possible, the live streams, all of the analysis videos that I do on the channel as well, so thank you guys. And let's get up on screen the likes goal for tonight, because it is set at 420, which means we're going to be looking for every single thumbs up we can muster to hit that target of 420 tonight and have Phil Jam number 277. Now, on the last live stream, we had Phil Jam number 276. And it was really cool. It had a bit of a funky groove to it. Unfortunately, watching the live stream back and listening to the jam at the end, there was a delay. I don't know why there was a delay, but there was a delay from my guitar, or at least from hearing the backing track to then the guitar making it to the live stream or the internet. So it meant that I was probably about half a second out of sync with everything. And of course, it's never going to be perfectly in sync when you're just a random amount behind. So that's a bit of a shame, because watching it back, I thought, well, hang on, that wasn't what I was playing at that particular point. But it was what it was. It was live and unrehearsed and all these things. And these things can happen live, that you do get time delays. So all of the little runs that I was putting together and the little lines that were very much with the tempo, obviously they're slightly delayed, so sounded like they're totally irrelevant. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens tonight with Phil Jam number 277. So let's get the likeometer up on screen, because we are at 215. Whenever we hit the 200 mark, I think that's always a good start to the live stream, and we are already there, so maybe a good start, and it means it's easy for me to work out. We're looking for another 204 people to hit the thumbs up. So if you could do that as you come through the door, it would be very much appreciated. We'll see where we end up. We'll obviously bust out the guitar, have a jam if we do hit that total, and we'll see if tonight we still get a bit of a delay going on or not, because and then we'll be able to tell if last live stream's Phil Jam was just a one-off that was out of time, or whether it's when I say out of time, I mean I'm perfectly half a second out of time with everything that I'm playing. So if I was editing it, I'd just move everything I played just forward by half a second, and then it'll be fine. But yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. Fingers crossed it was just a gremlin for the last live stream, because it doesn't make sense for all the other live streams to be okay. But then again, I don't really watch the Phil Jams again. It just happened to be the case that I watched the last one just to check that it was all uploaded and ready to upload over on Patreon. Which reminds me that on Patreon, I think they've changed the way that the videos are embedded on the site. So it means that the Patreon site doesn't play the YouTube video from Patreon. I think you have to click on the link and then it will take you through to the YouTube video. So that's just something that you have to do on Patreon. I think that's the only thing that's changed, or whether they're trying to figure that out. Usually you could just click on the box within Patreon, but yeah, maybe it's not working for a reason, or maybe it's just an update and it's a glitch that isn't working. So we'll see. But I'll keep on uploading the videos to Patreon, or at least the links, so you guys can click on them and you'll get notified for each video, but then it might take you through to YouTube. So just so you know. Right. Having a look into that live chat room and the super chat window, I can see that there have been donations. So thank you guys for these. Let me get the donations tab up on screen, because you don't have to donate. Just watching is great. So thank you guys for watching the videos, interacting with them, hitting the thumbs up and subscribing and all that cool stuff. And if you are subscribed, you might have to check that you are subscribed, because sometimes you get unsubscribed. I don't know why that happens, other than the algorithm being a bit stupid. But yeah, you might just have to double check that you are subscribed in case you stop getting the videos. But yeah, for those people that do donate, it is very much appreciated. You don't have to donate, but I think it's important that they know between 45 and 60% goes to YouTube through the super chat window, and between 3 and 5% goes to PayPal through the PayPal link, which you can find in the description below. But yeah, you don't have to go anywhere near those things. Just joining me on the channel is great. Right, now I'm going to address some of the super chat donations, because I have had some over on PayPal as well. But first of all, I can just see Jeremy asking, do streaming platforms deliberately treat independent artists poorly? Would this be motivated by record labels? I'm not on streaming, at least my music isn't on streaming sites. I used to be on Spotify, I don't know, maybe 14 years ago or something like that. It was a very long time ago, but then I understood their business model very early on. So it meant that I could then take my music off Spotify, and yeah, I mean, all you've got to do is look at your figures to realize that, yeah, 16,000 streams, I got £12. It's something like that. So if you're thinking about, as an independent artist, which I've spoken about this many times on my channel, as an independent artist, if you're looking to make music or your music career sustainable, you need to be selling your music at the same rate that the major record labels are selling them. So it means you can just copy the prices, and you can have your albums, the same price, and for every album you sell, you're going to keep all of that. Rather than, like, say for example, if I'd sold 16,000 singles, which is effectively what was going on. People were listening to my music by clicking on the song and saying, oh yes, I want to listen to that. And then they listen to it, and for that particular single that they've now listened to, maybe even put on a playlist so that now they can listen to it multiple times. In real life, and not streaming sites, they would have had to have paid, 79p? Or I always make it 99p for the sake of the calculations, because then I can say that it would be almost £16,000 that you'd get for everyone that wanted to listen to your single. As is normal, as is the case if you're selling music independently, but it used to be the case that you'd go out and you'd buy the single, whatever the single may be. So in that particular case, rather than almost £16,000, which is, I guess, between $20,000 and $24,000, instead of that, I got £12, which is like $15, $16. So I knew straight away from that very first report, I thought, it's not really worth me being on that. And the whole point, their whole sales pitch is, get your music on Spotify because you might be put in the same playlist as other bands such as Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses and all the other bands that might be close to your genre. So they say, oh, you'll get more exposure. But guess what? Exposure doesn't mean you're going to sell anything. If you get exposure, guess what people are going to do? On Spotify, they're going to go and find your album, and they're going to find all of your other songs and add it to their Spotify playlist. So what happens if they're on the 1 month free trial, and then at the end of the month they think, oh well, I don't want to go into the the pro plan or whatever it might be. They've got your music for nothing. So this is why it works out that you think, well, yeah, I might have got exposure, but what did I get from that? I would have been better off selling one single. Because if somebody's listening to your songs on Spotify, you're getting 0.00001 of a pence. If they listen to all of your album, if you've got 11 tracks, that's 0.0000011 pence. So you think, well, I'd rather have 99 pence or 79 pence for that that particular single or song, or if they've listened to all of your songs on the album. So it just doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense for me. So all of this Spotify argument is something I'm not involved in as an artist. I don't have to worry about it, and I know that loads of independent artists are, such as The Question from Jeremy. I know that a lot of people and independent artists are thinking that, well, it's stacked in the favour of the major labels, because they can make money because they're getting millions and millions and millions of listens. Whereas for independent artists, what are they getting from it? And I've just told you, it's in like a fraction of a pence per listen. So yeah, it's not really in the interest of independent artists, but yeah, it's just one of these traps that so many people fall into. They think it's good to get on playlists, but it doesn't do anything. You can be on a playlist, but you can look at your bank balance and think, well, how am I going to finance my next 4 weeks of creations and things that I might want to do on the internet? And if you've given up your job, how are you going to finance the next 4 weeks if you're making 0.0000001 of a pence per listen? You literally have to suddenly have millions of listens to start making it a full-time career. So yeah, I think you've just got to think more logically, more basically, and in a much more basic way to think, right, I've got a site, set up a site, and try to get people to come to your site. Don't get people to come to a third-party site that you are nothing to do with, hoping to get through traffic, which, let's say, for example, you do get a few thousand people listening, or 16,000 people listening, and you make £12. You think, well, £12 usually won't pay rent, but just under £16,000, if you were to get that same through traffic to your website, that's the kind of money that you can think, hang on, I can pay a lot of rent with that. If you're paying £1,000 or just over £1,000 a month, then that's just over a year's worth of rent that you can pay, and you can think, right, well, that's sorted that out. Obviously you've got to worry about food and water and stuff, but yeah, it's a very good start. So this is what I say to everyone: just be switched on with what you're doing online, and look into what streaming sites are and look at how they can benefit you. Because if you're trying to be a full-time musician, you've got to look at how you can make enough money to make it sustainable. So yeah, a great thing is if you can start to do that, you'll have to sell a fraction of, generally probably about 3% of a signed artist, because they're signing away 97% of everything that they've got in order to be on the record label and be signed. So if you're getting everything yourself, you've only got to sell 3%, the number that they do. And this is still with artists that are signed to major labels. They might not be making hundreds of thousands or millions of pounds every year. They might be a smaller band on that particular label, and you can match, if not outsell them. And I know for a fact that with my website and my music that I have and am outselling signed artists, because I know, I've got people that I've spoken with who have been signed and who are signed, and they say how much they earn. And generally it's going to be after their record deal has then finished, after say 2 or 3 years, they then say what they've been paid. So then kind of roughly if you're doing quite well or not, or if you're competing with signed artists. But of course, it isn't common knowledge as to how much people are paid, because there are videos on YouTube where people have said about what they've earned over the last 3 years with their major label record deal, and sometimes it's not even a year's income for what would be a standard job. That's what they end up with. But I've always said it's the illusion of fame. That's what you get with major labels. You're famous, you're traveling the world, you're staying in hotels, and people assume that that means you're making money. It doesn't. It means the record label is spending money on you, and everything you sell, they're putting back in their pockets, plus their percentage on top. So this is why, some people after a 3-year record deal make £16,000. Ironically, the same amount that I was saying that you'd earn with 16,000 downloads of your song, if you can get that many people onto your website. So it's crazy when you kind of understand how it all works. But I think it's important to do that if you are a musician and you're serious about trying to do it full time. You got to understand, how to break it all down and all the margins and everything that you need in order to make that possible. Right. So anyway, I am going to be jumping into the super chat donations just to get through these. Valhalla has donated £10. Thank you for that. And that's a straight up donation. Karen's donated $4.99 and says, Phil, this may sound silly. What would you recommend for a singer who suddenly got hiccups during a live performance? Thanks for all you do, Karen. So, and this is just making me think that I don't, and this is massively going to tempt fate, so I'm going to lean over and touch a guitar, touching wood, or knock on wood, as people say elsewhere. I don't think I've had hiccups during the live stream, and I'm going to see if I can try and manifest them for this live stream. But I think if you're a singer, now the problem with hiccups, I don't know if it's something that you can bring on yourself by thinking about it, or I think yawning is something that when you see other people do it and then you start to yawn yourself, but I'm not sure that works with hiccups. Anyway, the interesting thing about hiccups is that, if you are singing, it is going to be a bit of a nightmare. Now, of course, if you are actually singing, then it's going to be a problem. Even if you're singing and, it might be the case that you're using auto-tune, that's still going to be a problem as well. If you're singing and you've got a backing track and your vocals on the backing track, that's where, it'll be a bit easier because you don't then have to worry about the singing part. So, hiccups in that situation doesn't matter. But hiccups in the other scenarios, generally what will happen, I'm trying to think, I don't think I've ever seen anybody singing and having to stop because of hiccups. But if somebody suddenly got hiccups and they are performing live, they would just stop. I mean, they could try and continue, but the problem with hiccups is that it's an involuntary contraction of your diaphragm. And when you're singing, your diaphragm is doing I say it's doing everything. It's doing most of what you're doing. So when your diaphragm starts involuntarily contracting, obviously this is why you get that sudden inhalation of air. It's the diaphragm is contracting and pulling that air in, and your vocal cords come together as well. My vocal cords come together, I think, more than most people. I get a really weird noise when I do hiccups. And actually, I had hiccups today, but I did 2, and then my body had reset itself. So I'm not really sure what it's about. I know that when you get muscle cramps, for example, when you might have been working out a lot and the muscle starts to cramp due to fatigue. I don't know whether it'll be related to that because, earlier, it just seems random when they happen. So, there's got to be some scientific reason for them. But as to how to get rid of them, if you are singing live and they start to happen, the only thing you can do is you can try to keep on singing and hope that they go away. But the great thing is people will understand, and it would totally validate your live vocals, because you'd have to say, I'm going to have to stop because I've got hiccups and I'm going to have to wait until they pass. And as for how long they stay, again, I think it's a bit random. I've had hiccups, I think, for quite a long time sometimes, but then, other times it's just, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 seconds and then they go away. So yeah, well, fingers crossed we're not going to get a diaphragm contraction tonight. That means that, yeah, it's all kind of going out of sync with your breathing and a bit of a nightmare. But anyway, so, and there's not a lot you can recommend because it's involuntary, the contraction of the diaphragm. So I think you just got to breathe, try to calm down. And I think the more you breathe, the better, because if it is a contraction caused by some kind of fatigue, then getting oxygen into your system is going to help that muscle to recover. So then it's not going to contract, like cramp effectively. But yeah, I'd say just having a drink of water, obviously, but that's something that you should be doing when you're singing anyway, keeping hydrated. So just have a little bit more water than you might be drinking already. But yeah, in order to try and avoid it, maybe hydration is just a good thing as a singer anyway, to be fully hydrated as much as you can and for as much of the day as possible. So anyway, thank you for that. And Elaine donated $2, so thank you for that. And the message is, yeah, you shaved. Thanks. Thank you for that. And I did find time to shave. So it's a rare thing, but it did happen. So yeah, I don't have the beard that everyone says, oh, are you growing a beard? I'm never growing a beard, but it just happens. And if I don't have time to shave, then the beard gets longer. I say the beard, it's not really a beard because it's not as if I get loads of hair on the sides here and look like I don't know, a lumberjack or something. I think they have beards, but yeah, mine's still a bit patchy. It just kind of comes through in the same places all the time. So yeah, I'm not going to be winning any beard growing competitions. And I mean, you can probably tell because I shaved a few days ago now, and it still has hardly grown back. So anyway, we are going to be jumping into the PayPal window, and we had a donation in there from Ian, who donated £1. So thank you for that, Ian. And yeah, straight up donation, just double checking there. We've had another donation from Elrod, who's donated £6. So thank you for that, and that's a straight up donation as well. And Deborah's donated £10. So thank you for that, Debbie. And the message is, hi Phil, just a quick hello. I will be on Catch Up Crew tonight because I'm going to see Stevie Nicks. Have a great live stream. You're awesome. Love you, Debbie. So thank you for that. And yeah, hello in the future if you are indeed watching this on Catch Up. And I hope that you had a great time at the show. Right, let me skip that advert as it tries to pop in. And Paul's donated $5. Thank you for that, Paul. And the message is 509,000 subscribers. Here we grow again. Most excellent. Please spike the likes, all y'all. Have fun tonight. Peace, love, and rock. So thank you for that, Paul. And let's make this official by getting the subscriber thing up on screen. And there it is. So 509,000 subscribers. It's official. Thank you guys for subscribing and hitting the thumbs up, all that cool stuff. So thank you, Paul, for that donation. We'll keep on pushing forward and see where we end up. But yeah, it's great to be at 509 so far. And yeah, I think that's already a great audience if nobody else joins in. But we'll see if anybody else subscribes in the future. So thank you for that. Right. Paul, I'm just going to see if there's anybody after that. Tammy has donated £10. Thank you for that, Tammy. And the message is, hi Phil, congratulations on hitting 509,000 subscribers. The growth of your channel is well deserved, and I know that you have so much more to achieve. Keep up the great work and keep on rocking. So I will try my best, but thank you for that, Tammy. Mish Marie has donated £3 as well, so thank you for that. And the message is, hi Phil, thanks for showing us the objective truth on the Golden live performance. I understand that many vocal coaches are analysing the vocal techniques, but if pitch is the most important element of singing, how can we give a pass to heavily calibrated vocals. So thank you for that. And I think in previous videos, I have mentioned that for me, because I learned to sing from scratch, I spent about a year on pitch, just trying to be accurate, because it is a skill that you have to learn, and you get better at doing it. And I guess it's something that you learn to do, and you learn to get better at it because you want to be able to sing accurately. And I wanted to be able to sing accurately myself. So that's why I worked at it for a year. But that's my own personal taste as an artist myself, as a singer. I wanted to be able to sing accurately. If I didn't really have to worry about that, and there might be some people that aren't as worried about singing accurately, then yeah, they might use pitch correction or auto-tune, and that's up to them. That's them as an artist, and they, everyone can do what they want to do. If I'm looking at a particular performance and I know the voice we're hearing is not the voice that was produced, I find it really difficult to talk about anything that might involve, chest voice or head voice or vocal cord connection and resonance and all these different things, because all of those things get you to the note. Being able to have the great technique to hit the note and to be able to sustain the note, with vibrato. These are all the things that are required to maintain that pitch. So, and also to maintain the pitch with the control of being able to apply vibrato and have all that breath support and everything that goes into it. So when I'm listening to something where I know the product that we're hearing is not due to the technique, it's due to the tuning, then I think, well, how can I say about how great the head voice is if we don't know that the head voice is what is actually responsible for getting to that place? So yeah, this is why I find it, unfortunately, just something that I can't look past that. But I think it comes from maybe my singing background, but also me as a guitarist, just doing the same thing with guitar playing, that if somebody is playing something, or if somebody has done a video or a live performance of a particular solo, and I can see that what they're playing is not what we're hearing, like the solo is different to what's going on, so I know that the audio and what we're watching doesn't match. With analysing guitar, I would have to point that out. And I then don't think that I could analyse what I'm looking at as a guitarist, and knowing what I'm looking at, knowing that it isn't real and it isn't what maybe is being portrayed as being real, then I can't just kind of overlook that or sidestep it and pretend that what we're looking at is exactly what we're hearing. If those two things don't match up, I think, especially on my channel, that I'm going to just tell people exactly what's going on. And this is the problem, that I'm just telling people exactly what's going on. And each video is requested. So it means people have sent me a video and say, what's going on here? And I say, this is what's going on here. And that's it. And it's no more or no less than that. But it seems like, say for example, somebody requests a video and they say, right, what's going on in this video? And I say something like, okay, this track is 124 beats per minute and it's in the key of G. Now, nobody would have a reaction to that. I'm just stating facts about the performance of what we're looking at, the tempo and the key. When I point out auto-tune or pitch correction or miming, lip syncing, it's in that exact same category. It's exactly the same. I'm just pointing out what is happening. It's in the key of G. It's 122 beats per minute, and it's auto-tuned. The vocal is auto-tuned. It's exactly the same thing, but unfortunately, I'd love to get to the bottom of this, because it's the human condition that people have an emotional reaction to something being said about tuning somebody's vocal. And in my videos, I'm never having a go at the singers. Like in that performance, I'm not saying they can't sing. I'm not saying that, you know, they're tone deaf, or I'm not having a go at any of the singers. I'm literally pointing out what is happening. And I think because people are asking me to analyze it, I am going to analyze it, and I'm going to tell you what's happening. And it just so happens that in my own, I guess, subjective opinion as an analyst, if I'm hearing something that I know isn't what was actually happening, I've got to mention that, because that's what I do on the channel. That is what being objective is, that you've got to tell everybody what is going on, and you can't kind of just not mention a particular thing. For me, if I'm asked to look at the singing, I think it's a huge part that if the result that we're hearing is because of a process, I've got to mention that process. And it's not having a go at anyone. It's just exactly the same as, you know, calling out the tempo and the key of the song is calling out exactly what's going on with the vocal. So yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. And you know, it's not even a discussion of artistry or, you know, authenticity, integrity, and all these different things that I talk about on my channel. It's not even really a discussion of that when we're doing an analysis video. I'm just saying what's happening. And I've also said about other artists that are using auto-tune because it's their thing, and artistically that's how they want their vocals to sound. And that's great for them as an artist. It's art. It doesn't matter that you're using this for your own art. And in those cases that it's being used, you know, obviously by the artist, they're honest about it. They're open about it. They've got that authenticity and that integrity because they say, yes, we're using it. And, or yes, I might be using it, you know, as a vocalist. And they come out and they say that. And I'll always go back to my Charlie Puth analysis that I did, where I pointed out that he was using auto-tune on his recordings and auto-tune live. And guess what? He's open about his use of auto-tune. So what happened after I made that video? Absolutely nothing, because everyone already knows. So I'm not pointing out anything that's, you know, scandalous or anything, you know, exposing anyone. And I'm not doing that anyway. I'm just stating what's going on with the performance that I've been asked to look at. But in that particular case, because it's a known entity as, you know, him as an artist, nothing happened after that video. But when people aren't entirely honest about what they're doing, and then people ask me to take a look at it and I point out what it is, and it might be the fact that it's either lip synced or, you know, auto-tuned and things that people don't realize, that's when people aren't very happy about it. And again, it doesn't change the fact of, you know, what I'm pointing out. I even had a comment today where somebody said about that golden performance, I thought it was fully live and, you know, not auto-tuned, and they said that they're disappointed that it wasn't fully live. So yeah, that's the point, that some people are thinking that it's something that it's not, and there's nothing wrong with people just being told what it is. You know, because like I said, with the artistry of auto-tune, you know, if people are totally honest about it, then people aren't going to be disappointed by it because they already know. But I think it's in those cases where you've got, yeah, people that are kind of being asked about it or pretending that they're not doing it, and that's where I think why I get asked to look at so many videos, because people aren't sure what they're listening to anymore because the artist isn't saying and isn't being honest when they're being asked about it. They're kind of saying, oh no, it was fully live. But then it, you know, obviously, you know, comes to pass that I do an analysis video and it might not have been, or their fully live performance means that they were there. It doesn't actually mean that they were singing, or that, you know, they were singing fully live, might have had bits on backing tracks and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's, and this is, by the way, in a totally different kind of set of brackets for live performances and studio produced tracks. I think everyone knows in the studio that bands and artists, I mean, they've been doing that for decades, for, you know, probably since, you know, the early 1900s, when they're recording something, trying to make it sound as perfect as possible, and doing multiple takes, doing comp takes, doing drop-ins, speeding up tape, slowing down tape. In the studio, you know, the Beatles did this all the time, pushing the boundaries of what they could do in the studio that they wouldn't be able to do live, but to get the sound they wanted on the studio product. I think everyone, especially with pitch correction being an industry standard now, everyone accepts that a released track from the studio would have been multiple takes. Could have been 5, 10, 20, 30 takes, and they're taking all the best bits to get the best product. And that's what recording in a studio is. And yeah, if they were using pitch correction, which is an industry standard, you've got to expect that now. But if they're using auto-tune, then they might be doing that. This is everything that's put into the creative process of being in a studio. But when you go and perform live, the word live means something different. It doesn't mean in the studio, it means live. It's like I am here talking to you live across this microphone. That's what it means. So yeah, there will be artists that go out and perform live and do have backing tracks, and if they're doing, like with the whole Taylor Swift thing that we had, they had a big show and everything, and might have miming in particular sections and auto-tune vocals and all these different things. You think, well, yeah, that's somebody's choice to do that live, and it's now whether people think it's something it's not. And that's why I get asked to look at these performances, is because people are paying a lot of money to go and watch something and they're thinking it's something that it's not. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with just knowing what you're paying for, and it's not a case of saying, oh, well, this particular artist does that live, and this other artist does that live, and that's okay and that's not okay. And I don't think that's, I don't do that on my channel. I don't say, oh, I don't think it's okay. People can do whatever they want, but it's not going to stop me just saying what is going on. That's the extent of it. Because I think if you look in my comments section, as you guys will know, that a lot of people don't understand that this is going on. So that there are a lot of people out there who wants to have an informed opinion. So I know that the argument is, well, if you don't like it, don't listen to it. And I fully agree with that. If you don't like it, don't listen to it. But what if you don't know what you're listening to? You might really like natural vocalists and talented singers who can hit pitches, who've got great range, all these different things. And you might be watching a live performance and you don't know what that is. They might be using something that you don't really like, such as pitch correction, auto-tune, post-pitch correction or live auto-tune. They might even be lip-syncing or miming in this performance and you don't know it, and you really like the performance, but you like the performance because you're unaware of what's going on, because it might be against your ethics. You might really like genuine singers. So then when you find out that that's not a genuine singer in that particular performance, are you still going to like that? The answer's no. But what's happened there? All you've done is be told what's going on. Nothing bad has happened. Nobody's having a go at that particular person for doing what they're doing. But you, as a subjective consumer of art, you can decide whether you want to like that or not, because some people don't care and some people will like it. Still, it doesn't matter, and that's great. But for there is a community of people, especially, the amount of messages I get that people don't know something has been heavily edited, and it's obvious to me, but they don't know. So that's all I'm doing, is just telling them what's going on. So then they think, oh, right, well, I'll maybe look at something else that falls more in line with my own personal beliefs and the things that I value in an artist, because that's what it comes down to. You've got to be able to invest in an artist that you believe in and you support, and they reflect what you appreciate about artistry, and that's how it works. And that's why honesty is so important. And that argument blows every other argument out of the water, because once you know what's going on, you can then make the choice. So it doesn't matter. And I want to get to the bottom, and I might do on my channel at some point in the future, I don't know, get to the bottom of why somebody, just such as myself, just pointing out a fact, why that causes such an emotional reaction, and why it's seen as having a go at somebody or an artist or a band. It's not, it's just stating a fact. And I think people deserve to know facts, because then you can base your opinion on those facts according to your own beliefs and your own, like I said, the ethics and what you appreciate from artists. If you don't have the knowledge, then you can't apply that. So you think, well, how do I know what anyone's doing? And how do I know where the great singers are who might not be, pitch corrected or auto-tuned? It might even be the exact opposite. People don't like natural singers. They want to hear auto-tuned vocals, and artists that are like that, and they might be looking out for those kinds of artists, in which case, it's just exactly the same, it's actually the opposite side of the same coin. That there's nothing wrong with people knowing what is going on, and it's not having a go at anyone or belittling anyone or hunting down artists. All of the videos that I make are requests, so it's literally just someone wanting to know for their own personal their personal knowledge and their personal experience of this particular artist. They just want to know what's going on, and I point that out, and that's it. And I think with the comments that I get in my comment section, and there have been a couple that I will actually jump into. Maybe this is going to be a troll corner type thing. Right, let's get into troll corner really quickly, because it does kind of tie into what I'm saying here. So let's go, and I'll see you guys in a second. Rock. So the first one is just saying about the amount of videos where I'm pointing out things that aren't truly live and might be edited, and they're saying that they'd rather that I went back to looking at old performances. And my answer to that is, I don't know whether I'll be able to read this because it's very small typing, but I'll try. I say, unfortunately, celebrating previous generations of music doesn't ensure the future generation will also be able to celebrate similar performances, as they won't exist. It's a better use of my time to try and make a difference for the better of music's future, as the past will never change. So that's basically my standpoint on it, is that especially with AI, and day by day, AI is getting so out of control. The amount of messages I'm getting about artists and bands that are coming out that I can tell are AI, and I know they're AI. And people are thinking, and they say, oh, I really love this new blues artist, but I'm not sure if they're real or not. And of course it's AI. So now you've got AI taking the place of well, where are the real musicians? They're not getting any coverage or not getting any exposure, because now AI artists are taking that exposure. So it's gone crazy on that side. So this is why, especially with AI, but with all of the performances and my authentic vocal project as well, that I'll be getting into in the future more. But with this, the past performances that I look at or have looked at on the channel, those are always going to be there. We can always appreciate those. And they're great. They're fully live, really talented singers. But my problem that I have, I can't just sit by as a musician myself and as a lover of music. I can't sit by and know that in the future, those kinds of performances won't exist, because everything is being post-edited now, and we're never actually hearing a truly live performance. So in the future, I think, well, that's going to be a bit of a sorry state of affairs for the younger generation growing up. And, it's something that I think the younger generation are getting used to, auto-tune and pitch correction, and might never hear a truly expressive voice unless they go back. And I think that's probably why a lot of the kind of reaction channels go back 30 years and then are blown away by performances, because they connect to the vocal rather than something that's been released nowadays in over the last maybe 5 or 10 years, that's obviously as an industry standard now being tuned vocally. So I as much as looking at older performances is great, and I still do have that side, and that's actually something that I did recently on another project, but that's for a kind of a TV thing. So it's not that I'm kind of not ever looking at old performances, but I feel like I've got to make a stand. If it's so easy to just sit by and go, oh well, it's an industry standard now, so let's accept it, and accept that in the future we're only going to be potentially listening to AI or voices that sound AI because they're all, calibrated to A440 standard pitch equal temperament. But I can't sit back and just allow that to happen. I think, well, I would prefer there's a choice that we either have the real voices, if you like those, go over there, or AI and tuned vocals, if you like that, go over there. I want the choice. I don't want for just everything to be, just tuned. For me, listening to tuned vocals just really gets in my ear. It just rings at A440, and it's just really frustrating to listen to. And I know that I've got very sensitive ears to pitch, so I know a lot of people can listen to it and either they can ignore it or they don't even know it's going on. But for me, A440 is a bit of a nightmare, unfortunately. So anyway, what we'll do is we will move out of, well, actually we've got another one that I will quickly jump into because I think this is more related to, and oh no. Now for some reason, unfortunately, on my screen, a screenshot of, I'm trying to do my tax at the moment, which is an absolute nightmare, and a tax bank statement just filled up all of my screen. So I'm going to try and get rid of that, and I have. But anyway, this particular comment was, actually, this is similar to what I was just saying. People, this entertainment, just enjoy the music and performance. Don't waste your time and precious brain cells by spending your whole life criticizing, unless that is your line of work and profession, like Wings of Pegasus. So I suppose that's maybe complimentary that they're saying that I'm a professional at what I do. But again, I don't think it's a waste of time to understand what's happening in any walk of life, to have an informed opinion about what you're listening to or what you're seeing. I think, that the more objective information you can get, the better, because then you can make informed decisions as a human. So just accepting something and it might all be fake, but, just listen to it and enjoy it. It's just entertainment. I think, it's music is an art form, at least it is to me. So when you're listening to music, it kind of hits on a different level when you're listening to a particular artist that strikes a chord with you personally, because it is an art form. It's not just entertainment. Entertainment is like a game show. It's just, all lights, and there's nothing really artistic about answering questions, for example, and watching lights flash. That's not artistic. The artistry is in writing, in the composition, like you have with poetry and all the different ways that humans express themselves. That's all art. So I think even more so nowadays with AI, it's important to know what is real, because if we just go down that avenue of, we'll just enjoy it, whatever it is, you think, well, are writers now not going to be writers anymore? We'll just get AI to make books. Are songs only going to be AI songs? We're going to do away with the musicians? Does that mean that, right, if that's the approach, then let's take an example like Taylor Swift. Let's say, well, let's cancel her and replace her with an AI version. Of course, her fans will say, well, no, we don't want that. You say, well, why not? Because you can still enjoy the music that AI's made because it sounds really similar. It's not really a logical argument to say just ignore everything and accept it and enjoy it, because some people don't enjoy it because they're not into that. So anyway, let's quickly jump into the super chat window, because there's been a few more donations in there. And Karen donated $10. Thank you for that. And I can see it's almost midnight. So we're looking for 420 likes. If you can hit that thumbs up, be much appreciated. What's that? 42 more people before the end of the live stream. And we have a backing track of 6 minutes and 43 seconds. So not too long, so we might be able to get through everything. Karen, $10 donation. Thank you for that. The message is sure cure for hiccups for medical journals ages ago. Just let a teaspoon of sugar dissolve in your mouth and swallow it. It's worked my entire life. So there you go. That's Karen's idea for hiccups. Worth a try. And Kirk Q has donated £9.99. So thank you for that. And the message is, congrats on the 500,000 followers. I've learned so much from your channel. I wondered if you're interested in other languages other than English. So thank you for that. And I mean, this is something that I have been thinking about recently, that I know that my channel is in English, and sometimes there are subtitles that are automatically generated, and I don't know whether they're done in other languages or what, or you know, what happens with that. But yeah, it might be the case that somehow, let me get rid of Mr. Troll, so we'll get out of here, and I'll see you guys in a second. So it might be the case that in other countries, maybe they can do, I don't know, a foreign version of my voice. I don't know whether that works or not, but yeah, I do know potentially that there's a whole world out there, and I think the English speaking countries that watch my videos, obviously over 500,000 subscribers, which is amazing, but if it did get translated into other languages, but I don't know how to get the videos. I guess that's something that YouTube does, how to get the videos out to different countries. Or maybe it does it automatically if you do have the different languages. I'm going to have to look into how to select particular languages, that maybe it's something that happens automatically. And then I've got a weird voice overdubbing my voice in a different language. I don't know. And maybe some of the, I don't know whether some of the technical terms that I use, even though I try to keep it technical, sometimes it doesn't translate over properly. And yeah, I'll have to look into that. But not something that I've done yet, but I might do in the future, because I know that I mean, over 500,000 subscribers is amazing, but it might be, you know, great to reach another audience. The only problem is that I already know from the algorithm earlier in the year, when you point something out that the mainstream music industry doesn't really want you to point out, then you can be punished for that. Now, if I was pointing that out and lots of other countries who are now finding this out in their own languages, yeah, I don't know what would happen with that. I don't know whether either I could get millions and millions and millions of subscribers, and we do now have a fork in the road of the music industry where people now understand what's going on and everyone can make an informed decision. And yes, not having a go at anyone, but everyone's now informed as to what they can buy all over the world and what they want to listen to. That'd be amazing. Or the algorithm will shut my channel down, you know, like it did earlier in 2025. But anyway, let's see. Maltese has donated $9.99. Thank you for that. And the message is, Yahoo, you found your razor. You are young again. So thank you for that. Jan's donated 20 Norwegian kroner and says, all humanity are dead in 2 years. Well, with AI, we might be struggling to find real performances. So Jennifer's donated $5. Thank you for that. The message is, someone asked, how are live performance vocals recorded? Are the filters taken off the mics? I understand that years ago the crowd is put in later. Well, it depends what you're talking about. Sometimes you can have a live performance that is totally re-recorded in the studio and they overdub it and try to make it sound live and put in crowd noise. That's something that has been happening, maybe since the 70s, maybe even earlier than that, but certainly from the 70s. Then the 80s, it really kind of took off, overdubbing live performances. But yeah, with the pre-recorded vocals, if somebody's going to lip sync or mime, that's something that's recorded in the studio. And I mean, sometimes they will use like an SM58, for example, which is a live vocal mic rather than a condenser mic like this, so that it gets a live sound. And they might even keep the plosives on there of the air hitting the mic. So yeah, because it's being recorded to try and sound like a live performance. So if they are lip syncing or miming, it sounds more authentic. But then sometimes they do record it in a studio with a condenser mic, and that's when it just sounds stupid. And then they pitch correct it, so yeah, it stands out that it's not a live vocal because you can see that it's calibrated. So anyway, yeah, thank you for that. And Jennifer donated $7 again, so thank you for that. And the message is, Phil, dumb question. Have you ever had your amp go off or your lead unplug from your guitar when you were playing live? So thank you for that. And no, I haven't, so I'm generally quite careful with my lead, my setup, knowing where my lead is. Obviously, kind of wrapping it around my strap before putting it into the guitar, so that if you do, I mean, I have like a 35-foot cable, something like that. So it means there's a lot of slack in it. So it means that you can walk around the stage, and quite a large stage, and not have to worry about your lead coming out unless you know, like Ghostbusters, you cross your paths or cross your leads, and you might have the bassist who's walking across your lead not knowing it and might catch their foot on it. So then if they do that, it means that the tension then pulls on your strap rather than on, you know, the jack that's in your guitar, so that it won't pull out of your guitar, but you'll just get pulled backwards a bit. So yeah, you want to make sure that you are trying to obviously account for every possible situation live. And I haven't had my amp go off live, so yeah, it's all been fine. The only thing that has happened, which was a bit annoying, was during a sound check, somebody who didn't really know how sound works, ironically the sound guy of the venue, just decided that, oh, I need this particular plug for something that I'm plugging in, or he was plugging in. So he pulled out my Fender MOSFET stack, which was at full volume, or, you know, close to full volume. He just pulled the plug out. So of course you got the loudest crack and bang of the amp. And fortunately, the amp was still okay. But yeah, everybody in that venue didn't particularly enjoy that, because it was a very loud amplifier. It was way too loud for what I needed, but it just happened to be a Marshall stack, which I liked the look of. The sound wasn't particularly good. But anyway, certainly with the unplugging it at full volume. Anyway, Kirk Koo has donated £9.99 again. Thank you for that. And the message is, what I mean is songs and singers in other languages. So, so I think I have looked at different artists on the channel, and they don't tend to get requested too much, but you know, like classical singers, for example, you know, singing in Italian, and you know, looking at those kinds of vocal performances that I have done in the past. So there are different languages on the channel, so thank you for that. And David donated $5 as well. Thank you for that, David, in the super chat window. Now quickly, we are going to get through the PayPal donations, and 15 more people, that's 15 in fingers and thumbs. If you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, it'd be much appreciated if you could do that, in order to ensure that we bust out the guitar and have a jam tonight. Lynn has donated £75. Thank you for that, Lynn. And the message is, thanks for these live streams, Phil. And no problem at all. I'll be here on Saturdays and Tuesdays, 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, unless you hear from me. That's always the thing, that I'm always going to be here at these times. Karen's donated £3.59, so thank you for that. And the message is, Phil, there are natural remedies for stopping hiccups. Hold your nose and drink water for 10 seconds, or eat a teaspoon of sugar. The first has worked for me, but one might let out a basso belch. Laugh out loud. Cheers, Karen. So thank you for that. And yeah, I guess maybe if you do a belch and you let out that amount of air, it might reset everything. I don't know. Generally, burping is quite good for resetting everything. But thank you for that, Karen. It's like, you know, when you feel like you've got kind of a burp that wants to come out, but it never really comes out. It's really annoying. So yeah, and then when it does finally, you think, right, I can go back to living now, and haven't got that. Sometimes when I'm doing an analysis video, that happens, and I can feel that, oh, you know, and I'm trying to make a particular point, and it always interrupts. That I think, oh, you know, I can feel that it burps, you know, on its way, and it always interrupts a point, so then I have to re-record what I was just saying. So yeah, it's always a bit annoying when that happens. But anyway, Connie's donated £20 as well, and says, Connie says, I've heard of guitarists who only do fist bumps rather than handshakes in order to avoid bone-crushing handshakes. How about you? Thanks, Connie. So thank you for that. And generally, I would say that, yeah, fist bumps, I think I probably prefer that. But if somebody does shake my hand, I think now with my arm, I can shake hands and I can get a half decent grip. So it means if somebody's really going to go for it, at least I'm going to be able to resist that. And I remember there's this guy at university. There's always a guy at university where they think they're the strongest, or they're, you know, stronger than other guys. And I think because I wasn't necessarily overtly muscular with kind of what I'm wearing, it all tends to be kind of hidden up with hoodies and t-shirts, that this guy, I was in the gym with him, and he first of all, actually no, it was on at the local kind of student union venue, where he kind of said hi and went to shake my hand, and he really went for it, and you could see in his face that he was trying to crush my hand, but I knew that he was, you know, trying to do it really firmly. So then, because I worked out, I then did it really firmly back. So then he realized, oh, this is backfiring, because I didn't think that he'd be able to take the strength of my handshake. There are guys like that do it. So anyway, then we happened to be in the gym, and he came over and did like 90 kilograms on the bench press, something like that. And he kind of put down the, you know, the weight and said, oh, do you wanna hop in for this set? And I said, yeah, all right, yeah. So I started adding weight, and he's saying, oh, what are you doing? Because he thought that I could never lift 90 kilograms. So I started adding to the weight, and I added up to 110 kilograms and did the same set that he did. And he knew that he had maxed out at 90. So then it was like, oh, okay. He said, you're a lot stronger than you look. So it's kind of that respect that's, I don't know, some people have got that kind of ego that they have to say, 90 kilograms, let's see you jump in with this set. So then, yeah, it's good to be able to show that you're actually stronger than the person who's trying to show off. But yeah, I think it's a lot better just to be humble and just go about your business. And yeah, when you get called into those kind of situations, you know, if they are trying to show you up, and you know, sometimes some people have to be shown that you might think that you're quite strong, but yeah. And it's all about I don't want to get sidetracked here. Oh, it's 10 past midnight. It's all about functional strength. And there's this guy who does videos on YouTube that are him pretending to be a cleaner in the gym, and he is lifting weights that these huge guys are struggling to lift. It's because he has functional strength. So there are guys that get really big that are working out to look muscular, and then there are other guys who are working out for strength. So in exactly the same case that I'm giving you here, that the reason that I could lift 110 and look smaller than the guy who maxed out at 90 is because I was focusing on strength. I wasn't really kind of focusing on, you know, trying to look good, or, you know, dare I say it, taking steroids and doing that kind of stuff, which, yeah, I'm not kind of into at all. I think it's just really dangerous to even be kind of experimenting with that, unless it's something that you've chosen to do and is your professional path as a professional bodybuilder, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we are going to be jumping into Give Me All Your Lovin', which is the winner for tonight's cover video. And then we are going to be having a field jam. Right, so I'm going to have to end this really quickly. We're going to be late ending tonight. But I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you after. Rock!
Of
there we have it. That was my version of Give Me All Your Lovin', the ZZ Top classic, of course. So, right, I've got the guitar out. We are going to be having a fill jam. My lights are dying down. You can tell it's the end of the live stream. Well, it should be, but it'll be the end in 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Let me click on this. And... right. Oh, that's already going, which is good. Let's turn on this, which is good. And oh, by the way, Elaine said major TikTok cover video, donated $2. Thank you for that. Karen donated $5 saying, Phil, burping isn't a bad thing as long as it doesn't erupt from the other end. Laugh out loud. In college, we'd guess what note erupted. Yes, silly me, Karen. So thank you for that. And 2 more donations over on PayPal. Joe donated £10. Thank you for that. And the message is, have you tried using the Line 6 wireless transmitters? Thinking of playing with them myself, but wondering if there might be a lot of interference / crosstalk. The only... I haven't actually used Line 6 wireless transmitters. I do get a lot of kind of sponsorship emails for that kind of stuff. Not from Line 6 though, but... or at least not from Line 6 yet. But when I did use it previously, but it's many years ago now, they might have improved, I felt like I was losing maybe 10% of my tone. So yeah, I just went back to, you know, being fully wired and getting the exact sound that I wanted live. So thank you for that, Joe. I mean, all you can do is just, you know, maybe try it and see if it works out for you. But for me, like, tone is everything live, so I didn't want to sacrifice less tone for them walking around not having to worry about my jack coming out, because it hadn't come out before. I think I'm always kind of going to be a bit old school like that. Kevin's donated £1. Thank you for that, Kevin. The message is, how about when you pulled out your lead at the end of Unwanted Stranger? So thank you for that. Yeah, and that's a music video. It's absolutely fine. It's the end of the song. Actually, that's the last song at the end of the album. So it means that I don't need to play guitar anymore after that. Thank you for that, Kevin. Right, now, let's just get on with this. Otherwise, we're going to be up all night. So, zoom out. Correct. That's on, I think. And this is, oh, by the way, atmospheric pad backing track number 2, C guitar, 60 beats per minute from Awesome Backing Tracks. Let's have a listen. Can you hear this? I think it's just disappearing from the sounds of it, at least what I can hear. So there we go, that was it. Now that was a very relaxed atmospheric pad backing track number 2, C guitar, 60 beats per minute. But at points in that, I couldn't really make out any percussion and maybe a bit of strumming in there, but I think the percussion was more in a particular section, but some bits just were very slow and flowy. Anyway, yeah, we'll see if there's any delay on my guitar like we had last time. Hopefully there wasn't, but that was atmospheric pad backing track number 2, C guitar, 60 beats per minute from Awesome Backing Track. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and thank you, Joe, for sending me that particular backing track. And I think now we are up to date with everything, and it is 25 past midnight, so we're gonna have to call it to a close. Thank you guys for hitting the thumbs up, ensuring that we had a field jam. I'm gonna be here on Tuesday night, so look out for that live stream, 11 PM Greenwich Mean Time. As always, I'll be here with another video tomorrow night, so look out for that as well. So all that's left for me to say is try to stay as safe and as sane as possible in this crazy world in which we live. And have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and I will see you at tomorrow night's videos. I'll see you then. Rock!